The silence of dawn in the countryside has a particular sound. It is the precise moment before the sun breaks the horizon, when the roosters have not yet crowed and the dew covers the earth like a crystal blanket. It was on one of those dawns when Michael Anderson made the decision that would change his destiny forever. He did not know it then, but that day he signed an invisible pact with ambition, and ambition always collects its price. Some men are born with everything and lose it through carelessness. Others, like Michael, are born with little and destroy it pursuing what they never needed. This is the story of a rancher who traded his son's hands for the keys to an automobile. A man who confused the shine of metal with the glow of happiness. A father who learned too late that there are things money cannot buy, and that once lost, they never return. Join us on this journey through the arid valleys of West Texas, where the sun punishes mercilessly and where a man discovered that the cruelest desert is not outside, but inside the human heart when it loses its way. Stay until the end of the story that will make you reflect on what truly matters in life, and do not forget to share your opinion in the comments. In the arid lands of Red Rock Valley, a small town in West Texas, Michael Anderson lived with his family. He was a 32-year-old man with skin tanned by the relentless Texas sun, calloused hands that knew every secret of the land, and eyes that still held the spark of dreamers. Michael worked a 40-acre plot that had belonged to his family for 4 generations. It was not much, but it was his. There he raised goats, cultivated corn, beans and peppers, and maintained a small garden where his wife grew vegetables for family consumption. Sarah, his wife, had been a nurse at the town clinic before getting married. A 26-year-old woman, strong as the mesquite of the desert, with that kind of serene beauty that only women who have learned to find joy in simple things possess. She had left her job when little Mike was born, their only son, to dedicate herself completely to the family. Little Mike was 9 years old and was the light of that humble home. An alert, curious child, with that perfect mix of childish innocence and precocious maturity that ranchers' children develop. Every morning he woke up with the rooster's crow to help his father with the goats, to collect eggs from the chickens, to water the garden alongside his mother. Life was hard but noble. The Andersons had no luxuries, but they did not lack the essentials either. They ate what they produced, wore simple but clean clothes, and slept with the tranquility of those who owe nothing to anyone. On Sundays, after Mass at the small-town chapel, the whole family gathered under the shade of the old oak tree that gave the settlement its name, and Michael played his guitar while little Mike ran among the trees with the other children. Sarah made tortillas by hand, the aroma of fresh coffee filled the house at dawn, and the nights passed on the porch, watching the desert stars while planning the future. A modest future, yes, but built on solid foundations of love and honest work. Everything began to change one October afternoon, during the regional livestock fair in Amarillo. Michael had taken 6 goats to sell when he met Mr. Richard Sullivan, a prosperous rancher who owned thousands of acres in the northern part of the state. Mr. Sullivan was a 50-year-old man, elegant, with ostrich leather boots and a $1,000 Stetson hat. He drove a black Ram truck that shined like a mirror under the sun, and spoke with the confidence of someone who has conquered the material world. "Friend," Mr. Sullivan told him after watching how Michael negotiated with other buyers, "you have talent for business. It would be a waste for you to bury it on that small ranch where you are." Michael removed his hat as a sign of respect. "Thank you, sir, but that land is my inheritance. My grandfather worked it, my father worked it, and now I work it to leave it to my son." "Very noble, this tradition thing," Mr. Sullivan responded, lighting an imported cigar, "but tradition does not put food on the table or send children to university. I need a foreman at my ranch New Dawn. I offer you 4 times what you earn now, housing, and the opportunity to learn the cattle business on a large scale." The words fell on Michael like seeds on fertile ground. 4 times his current income. That would mean being able to buy more land, improve the ranch, give little Mike the education he never had, take Sarah out of the hard life of the countryside. "It is tempting, Mr. Sullivan, but my family—" "Precisely because of your family you should accept," the rancher interrupted, placing a paternal hand on Michael's shoulder. "What kind of father are you if you do not take advantage of an opportunity like this? In 3 years, with what you save, you can buy double the land you have now. Think about it carefully." During the trip back to Red Rock Valley, Michael could not think of anything else. The beat-up truck he was driving seemed older than ever, the land he worked seemed smaller, The adobe house where they lived appeared poorer. For the first time in his life, he felt that what he had was not enough. That night, after putting little Mike to bed, he shared the proposal with Sarah while they washed the dinner dishes. "Sarah, today I received an offer that could change our lives," he began with a cautious voice. His wife stopped washing and turned to him with a worried expression. "Tell me." Michael described the meeting with Mr. Sullivan, the tempting salary, the promises of a prosperous future. But as he spoke, he noticed how Sarah's face darkened. "Where is that ranch?" she asked with a tense voice. "In the north of the state. About 6 hours from here." 6 hours. Sarah dried her hands slowly. "Michael, are you thinking of leaving and leaving us alone? It would not be forever, honey. Just 3 years. Maybe 4. With what I save, we can have double what we have now. And what is the price of that? Little Mike growing up without his father? Me alone managing the ranch? This family living separated for a higher salary?" The discussion extended for hours. Sarah argued about the importance of family unity, about the dangers of pursuing distant riches when they already had enough. Michael insisted it was a unique opportunity, that he was doing it for them, that temporary sacrifices would bring permanent benefits. "This land has given us everything we need," Sarah said with tears in her eyes. "Our son was born here, your parents are buried here, we have built our life here. Money is important, Michael, but not more than being together." "Sarah, look at me," he responded, taking her hands. "I work from dawn to dusk and we barely earn enough to survive. What future does little Mike have here? Do you want him to end up like me, struggling with dry land, depending on the rains, unable to give anything better to his family?" Those words hurt Sarah more than any physical blow. Her husband was saying that the life they shared, the family they had built, was not enough. That everything they had was too little. That they needed more. For 4 weeks, Michael struggled with the decision. He observed his ranch with critical eyes, noticing every defect. The corral that needed repair, the broken fence, the house roof that leaked when it rained. At night, he made obsessive calculations on pieces of paper, calculating how much he could save, how many years he would need to get ahead. The final decision came after a particularly hard drought that affected the crops and sickened several goats. As he counted the few bills he had left after paying the veterinarian, Michael felt the weight of poverty like never before. "It is now or never," he told himself, and called Mr. Sullivan to accept the offer. The day of departure was devastating. Sarah had cried all night while packing the few belongings Michael would take. Little Mike, without fully understanding what was happening, asked over and over when his daddy would return. "Son," Michael told him, kneeling in front of the boy, "Daddy has to go work far away so we can have a better life. It will not be forever. Soon I will return and we will have everything we need. But why can't you work here with us?" Little Mike asked with a broken voice. Michael did not know how to respond. He hugged his son tightly, promising him he would return soon, that everything he was doing was for him, for his future. They were promises that would become repeated lies during the following 4 years. The first months were the most difficult. Michael wrote weekly letters describing his new life at the New Dawn Ranch, a completely different world. The property was immense, with modern technology and an intense work pace that kept him busy from sun to sun. "Dear Sarah," he wrote, "this place is impressive. I have learned techniques I never knew. Mr. Sullivan is teaching me the real cattle business. The work is hard, but the salary is as promised. I already saved enough to fix the roof when I return." Sarah read these letters to little Mike every night, and the boy fell asleep hugging his father's photograph, dreaming of his return. But maintaining the ranch alone proved more difficult than Sarah had anticipated. Without Michael's technical knowledge, without his physical strength for heavy tasks, the small property began to decline. During the first year, she managed to maintain the livestock and cultivate the basics, but every problem became a mountain difficult to climb. The second year brought a grasshopper plague that destroyed much of the corn harvest. Sarah watched helplessly as the insects devoured months of work. The neighbors helped what they could, but each family had its own problems. Michael returned for a visit of barely 2 days during that crisis. When he saw the state of the ranch, he felt guilt, but rationalized it quickly. It is temporary, Sarah. A bad year. With what I am earning, soon we can recover it all and more. Michael, it is not just the money, she responded with fatigue. I need you here. Little Mike needs his father. This land needs its owner. Just a little more time, honey. Mr. Sullivan offered me a promotion. I will be the general foreman. The salary will be even higher. A little more time. Those words became the refrain of each visit, increasingly sporadic. 6 months later, 9 months later. It was always a little more time. During the 3rd year, the letters began to space out. Michael spoke less about missing the family and more about business opportunities, about his increasingly ambitious plans. Little Mike, who was now 12 years old, had stopped asking when his father would return. He had developed a premature independence, becoming the man of the house he should never have had to be. The 4th year was the worst. A season of torrential rains flooded the fields and sickened the goat herd. Sarah was forced to sell the last animals to buy medicine when little Mike contracted a severe respiratory infection. When she called Michael to inform him, his reaction left her speechless. Sarah, I understand the situation is difficult, but I cannot return now. I am in important negotiations. I will send you extra money this month, but you need to understand that these sacrifices are temporary. Your son was sick for 3 weeks, Michael. He asks about you every day. Everything I do is for him, Sarah. For his future. Without money we cannot give him quality education. We cannot have a dignified life. That conversation marked the breaking point. Sarah began to understand that she had lost her husband, not to another woman, but to an obsession that consumed him from within. In the 5th year, Mr. Sullivan decided to renew his vehicle fleet and offered Michael the opportunity to buy a used Silverado truck at a special price. Michael, you have been my best employee during these years, Mr. Sullivan told him in his office. This Silverado is barely 4 years old. It is in excellent condition. With it you can get independent jobs, maybe start your own transportation business. For Michael, that truck represented much more than a vehicle. It was the tangible symbol of 5 years of sacrifice, the physical proof that his decisions had been correct, the material evidence he could finally show his family. He used all his savings to buy it, leaving barely enough for basic expenses. For weeks he worked overtime to pay for the paperwork, insurance, some improvements he considered indispensable. The obsession with the truck intensified during the days before his return. He spent hours cleaning it, adjusting every detail, practicing the words he would use to describe his success to Sarah and little Mike. The trip back to Red Rock Valley took 2 days. Michael drove slowly, savoring every mile. 11 months had passed since his last visit, the longest absence. It was a Saturday afternoon when he arrived. The sound of the horn resonated throughout the town, a strident sound that intended to announce his transformation into a prosperous man. Sarah came out to the porch drying her hands on her apron, with an expression that mixed relief and accumulated resentment. Little Mike, who had grown noticeably, ran toward the truck with the excitement of a 14-year-old boy who was finally seeing his absent hero again. "Look at this family!" exclaimed Michael, jumping from the vehicle. 5 years of work have finally paid off. This truck represents our future. During the following hours, Michael gave an improvised tour to all the neighbors. He opened the hood to show the engine, explained technical features, described plans to use the truck in future businesses. Sarah watched from the porch with growing concern. The man who had returned was no longer the same. Little Mike waited patiently for his father to pay attention to him. Finally, he approached timidly. "Dad, will you tell me about your work?" "Later, son, later," Michael responded distractedly, without looking at his son. "Now I need to show Mr. Ramirez how the automatic transmission works." Sunday dawned with clear skies. Michael slept late, exhausted from the celebration. Sarah and little Mike followed their routine. Early mass, return home, minor chores. Little Mike had developed a special love for caring for family possessions. It was his way of honoring his absent father's memory, keeping everything in perfect condition for when he returned. That morning, while his father slept, little Mike saw the truck parked under the mesquite, covered with dust from the trip. In his child's heart an idea arose perfect. Surprise his father by washing it as a welcome gift. He went to the tool room and gathered what was necessary: a bucket, a hose, soap, and a hard-bristled brush his mother used to wash clothes. In his inexperience, he did not know that those bristles were too abrasive for a vehicle's paint. With care and dedication, he began cleaning. First he rinsed, then applied soap, and finally began to scrub with the brush, believing he was doing perfect work. The hard bristles immediately began to scratch the silver paint, creating visible lines across the entire surface. Little Mike, concentrated on his task, did not notice the damage. In his mind, he was simply removing the dirt. He worked for 2 hours. When he finished, he wiped the sweat and contemplated his work with satisfaction. The truck was clean, without dust or mud. Proud, he ran to wake his father. He entered quietly into the room and whispered, "Dad, wake up. I have a surprise for you." Michael woke up in a bad mood from the interruption. "What is it, Mike? What time is it? I washed your truck so it would look nice. I wanted to give you a welcome surprise." The words took time to process. When he finally understood, Michael jumped out of bed with panic. "What did you do?" "I washed your truck, Dad. It was dirty and I thought you would like it." Michael ran out, followed by little Mike, who was still smiling with pride. When the sunlight revealed the complete disaster, the entire surface covered with deep scratches, 5 years of frustration exploded in a moment of uncontrollable fury. "No. What did you do?" Little Mike stepped back frightened. "Dad, I just wanted it to be clean. You destroyed my truck. 5 years of work. 5 years of sacrifice. And you destroyed it all." Sarah, awakened by the screams, ran out and found a scene that horrified her. Her husband, completely out of control, shouting at his son with unknown fury, while little Mike cried without understanding what he had done wrong. "Michael, calm down," she tried to intervene. Without thinking, without measuring the consequences, Michael grabbed little Mike's hands and began to hit them with blind fury. These hands destroyed everything. You are going to learn to value what money costs." Little Mike's screams of pain woke the entire neighborhood. Sarah tried to intervene physically, but Michael pushed her hard. "Do not interfere. This boy has to learn." The beating lasted several eternal minutes. When it finally stopped, little Mike had swollen, bleeding, and visibly fractured hands. The boy cried not only from physical pain, but from the emotional confusion of being attacked by the one he loved most. Michael, still consumed by his obsession, took little Mike to his room and locked him in. "You are going to stay here until you learn to value your father's work." Sarah tried to reach her son, but Michael stood in the way. "No one is going to coddle this boy. He needs to learn discipline. Michael, he is hurt. He needs medical attention. What he needs is to reflect on what he did. Doctors cost money, Sarah. Money we will now have to spend repairing the damage he caused." During the rest of the day, Michael alternated between states of fury and rational justification. He spent hours examining each scratch, obsessively calculating how much the repair would cost. Through the closed door, Sarah heard little Mike's moans of pain, his sobs, his calls asking for water and forgiveness. Every sound was a dagger in her maternal heart. The second day was worse. Little Mike developed a fever from infections, but Michael refused to allow medical treatment. Let him learn what it means to suffer. Sarah, hiding her desperation, tried to negotiate. "Michael, please let me at least clean his wounds. No coddling. That boy destroyed 5 years of my life. Let him feel the consequences." Secretly, Sarah managed to pass water and food to little Mike through the window, but she could do nothing about the infected wounds that worsened hour by hour. The third day, Michael announced he would go to the neighboring town to get quotes to repair the paint. "I am going to see how much it will cost to fix the destruction. Michael, please, before you leave, let me take little Mike to the doctor. Let him learn to value the consequences," he responded coldly. The moment she heard the engine driving away, Sarah ran with the master keys. When she opened the door, the spectacle left her speechless. Her son was pale, with high fever, hands swollen to double their size, with red lines of infection extending up his forearms. "Mom," little Mike murmured weakly, "is Dad still angry with me?" Sarah carried her son, and for the first time in 3 days, little Mike could cry freely. "No, son, Dad is not angry. He is confused. You did nothing wrong. You wanted to give him a surprise of love." She took him to the small health center where Dr. Henry Williams, who had attended 3 generations of local families, examined the boy with growing horror. "Sarah," he said with a grave voice, "how long has it been?" 3 full days, doctor." The doctor closed his eyes. "The hands have very advanced infection. The right one has multiple fractures and tendon damage beyond repair. We will have to amputate it to prevent the infection from spreading to the rest of the body." The words fell like lightning. Sarah leaned against the wall, feeling her legs would not support her. "Doctor, there must be another alternative. If you had brought him the same day, maybe. But after 3 days, gangrene has already begun. It is amputate or death by septicemia." Little Mike, who had heard, looked at his mother with tears but with serenity that broke the heart. "Mom, it is okay. If the doctor says it is necessary, it is okay." Sarah felt something inside her break definitively. It was not just the pain of seeing her son face a tragedy. It was the clear understanding that her marriage had ended, that the man she had loved no longer existed. While the doctor called the regional hospital, Sarah made the most difficult decision: to call Michael. Michael was at the auto body shop discussing repair techniques when his phone rang. "Michael, it is Sarah. Little Mike is in the hospital. They are going to have to amputate his right hand." The silence lasted almost a minute. Michael, surrounded by employees who had heard, felt the world stop. What did you say?" "They are going to amputate his right hand, Michael. 3 days of infection. If they do not do it now, he could die." Reality fell like an avalanche. For the first time in 5 years, he clearly saw what he had done. He had tortured his son for 3 days over scratches on metal. He had prioritized an object over the health and life of his only son. Without saying goodbye to anyone, Michael ran to his truck and drove like crazy toward the hospital, violating speed limits, with tears running down his cheeks. He arrived exactly when little Mike was coming out of surgery. The boy was pale, with his right hand amputated and bandaged, but when he saw his father, his eyes lit up. "Dad, I knew you would come." Michael approached the bed, and when he saw the bandaged stump where the small hand he had beaten so brutally used to be, he began to cry in a way he had never cried. "Mike, forgive me, my son." But little Mike's response completely destroyed his heart. "Dad, do not cry. Now I will not be able to scratch your truck anymore with this hand because I do not have it anymore. But I still have the other one to hug you. And I promise I am going to be very careful to never damage your things again." Those words, spoken with pure innocence of a child who still loved unconditionally the father who had hurt him so deeply, were like a dagger in Michael's soul. He understood that his son, even after losing a hand because of him, still blamed himself, still sought paternal approval. Michael hugged his son with desperation never felt. "No, son, it was not your fault. It was never your fault. You wanted to give me a surprise of love, and I did not know how to value it." That night, while little Mike slept under the effects of medication, Michael left the hospital and walked to his truck. He saw it under the streetlights. Shining, perfect. For the first time, he saw the truck for what it really was: a piece of soulless metal that had cost his son's hand, the destruction of his family, the loss of everything that had real value. He got in and drove slowly back to Red Rock. During the trip, his mind filled with memories. Baby Mike sleeping in his arms, 5-year-old Mike running through the fields, Mike helping his mother during the years of absence, Mike that fatal morning, with the proud smile of someone who wanted to give a surprise of love. When he arrived home, it was past 11 at night. Sarah was waiting for him on the porch, sitting in the old rocking chair. The moonlight illuminated her face, showing marks of crying and years of suffering. "How is he?" Michael asked without daring to look at his wife. "Sedated. The operation was successful, but he will have to learn to live without his right hand." Sarah's voice sounded hollow, as if she were speaking from very far away. Michael sat on the porch steps, burying his face in his hands. "Sarah, I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. I know I destroyed everything we had built together. Michael, she said after a long silence, for 5 years I waited for the good man who left to return someday. But the man who returned is no longer the same one who left. You are right. I got lost along the way. I believed that accumulating money and possessions would bring us happiness, but it only brought us pain and separation. I traded my family's love for the illusion of material success. Sarah got up from the rocking chair and walked toward the truck parked under the mesquite. She ran her hand over the newly painted surface. Perfectly smooth and shiny. This truck cost our son his hand, Michael. Was it worth it? All the sacrifice, all the absence, all the loneliness we lived. Was it worth it for this piece of metal? Michael approached his wife, seeing the truck with absolute clarity for the first time. It was no longer a symbol of success or progress. It was physical evidence of his gravest mistakes, of the terrible price he had paid for pursuing wrong dreams. No, he murmured. None of this was worth it. I would have been richer staying here, working our land, watching my son grow, being a present husband to the noblest woman in the world. Tomorrow I am going to file a report for child abuse, Sarah announced with a firm voice. I cannot allow little Mike to go through something like this again. I cannot risk his well-being. The words fell on Michael like a definitive sentence. He understood that he had lost not only his family's trust, but also his moral and legal right to be near them. I understand your decision, Sarah. It is the right thing. But let me at least do something to partially repair the damage. He took the truck documents from his pocket. It is valued at $50,000. Tomorrow morning I sell it and give you all the money. Use it for little Mike's medical expenses, to repair the property, to give him the education he deserves. Money is not going to give our son his hand back, Michael. I know. But it is the only thing I can do now. It is the only thing I have to offer you. Sarah entered the house without saying more words. Michael was left alone in the yard, contemplating the truck that had cost the destruction of his family. He walked around the vehicle, remembering the euphoria he had felt when buying it, the grandiose dreams he had nurtured, the illusion that this object would make him a successful and respected man. During the following hours, he walked through the entire small property he had abandoned 5 years ago. He saw the neglected garden where Sarah and little Mike had struggled to maintain some crops. He saw the empty corral that once housed 30 goats. He saw the broken fence he had never repaired before leaving. He saw the family house that needed paint and repairs. Everything could have been solved with patient work and family love. It had not been necessary to abandon his family for 5 years. It had not been necessary to pursue distant riches when true prosperity was here, on this land, with these people who loved him unconditionally. He stopped in front of the small family cemetery where his parents rested. He knelt in front of the simple graves marked with wrought iron crosses. "Dad, Mom," he murmured through tears, "you taught me to value family, honest work, simple but dignified life. I let you down. I abandoned everything you taught me to pursue illusions that only brought pain. I hurt my son, lost my wife, destroyed everything you built with so much effort." The night desert wind moved the mesquite branches, creating a whisper that seemed to Michael like his parents' voices, not with reproach, but with infinite sadness at seeing a son lost on wrong paths. He returned to the house as dawn was breaking. Sarah had already gotten up and was making coffee in the kitchen, maintaining the daily routine she had sustained alone for 5 years. "Sarah, I have made a decision," Michael announced entering the kitchen. She turned to look at him, and for the first time in days, she saw something different in her husband's eyes. It was no longer the obsessive gleam of the ambitious man, nor the blind fury of the one who had hurt his son. It was something deeper: acceptance, real regret, and infinite sadness. "I am going to turn myself into the authorities for what I did to little Mike. I am going to sell the truck and leave all the money for you. And then I am going to leave far away forever." "Michael." "No, Sarah. Let me finish. For 5 years I pursued the wrong dream of giving you a better life. But the better life we already had here together, working our land with love and dignity. I was too foolish to value it." He approached the table where there was paper and pencil, and began to write. "My dear family, I know words cannot repair the damage I have caused, but you need to know the truth about these 5 years and about my final decision. I left believing it was for you to give you a better life. But along the way I got lost. Ambition became more important than love, money more valuable than family, possessions more meaningful than people. He continued writing for an hour, expressing everything he had never known how to say in life, all the love he had buried under layers of materialistic obsession, all the regret that consumed him from within. I cannot live knowing I hurt my own son for defending a material object. I cannot face each day remembering I traded Mike's hand for a truck. I cannot look into my wife's eyes knowing I destroyed the most beautiful family in the world pursuing worthless illusions. When he finished the letter, he folded it carefully and left it on the table along with the truck keys and all important documents. Sarah, take good care of little Mike. Tell him when he is older that his father loved him more than life itself, but that he only realized it when it was too late. He left the house while Sarah read the letter. He walked to the field where his father had taught him to work the land, where he had dreamed of raising his son, where he had made the fatal decision to leave to seek distant riches. He sat under the same mesquite where he had played as a child, where he had courted Sarah during his youth, where he had planned a prosperous future for his family. He took the old shotgun he kept to protect the livestock from coyotes. With the first lights of dawn illuminating the fields that had once been prosperous, while the birds began their morning song and the desert breeze gently moved the branches of the ancient tree, Michael closed his eyes and made the final decision. A dry shot echoed throughout the valley, frightening the birds that flew away in all directions, breaking forever the morning peace of Red Rock Valley. Sarah, who had run when she heard the noise, found her husband's body under the mesquite, with the farewell letter still in his hands. For the first time in many years, she cried not from pain or frustration, but from infinite sadness for everything that had been, everything that could have been, and everything that would never be. Michael Anderson's funeral was held 3 days later at the small Red Rock Valley Cemetery. The whole town attended, not only to accompany Sarah and little Mike in their pain, but also to reflect on a tragedy that could have touched any family in the community. Father Anthony, during his homily, spoke with simple but profound words. Brothers and sisters, Michael Anderson was a good man who got lost pursuing material dreams. His heart was in the right place. He wanted the best for his family, but his methods were wrong. He teaches us that true wealth is not in what we possess, but in the people we love and the time we share with them. May this tragedy serve us to examine our own lives. Are we valuing what truly matters? Are we present for our families? Are we teaching our children that love is worth more than any material possession? Little Mike, with his right arm bandaged and premature maturity in his 14-year-old eyes, approached the microphone to address the attendees. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. My dad made very big mistakes, but I know he loved me. He got confused and believed material things were more important than being with his family. His mistake cost us much pain, but it also taught us the most valuable lesson: that nothing in this world is worth more than our family's love. I have already forgiven my dad, and I hope that wherever he is now, he has found the peace he could not find in life. To all the dads who are here I ask, do not make the same mistake. Your children need you present, not rich. They need you with love, not with expensive gifts. They need you here working together, building happy memories. The boy's words deeply touched the hearts of all attendees. Several men from town who had been considering leaving to work far away decided to seek local alternatives. Several families who had been facing conflicts over money understood they had more important priorities. Sarah, dressed in black but with unbreakable dignity, addressed the community. Michael did not die in vain if his story serves for other families to avoid going through this pain. For 5 years I waited for the good man who had left to return. When he finally returned, he had changed so much that he could not control himself when faced with the consequences of his decisions. But I want you to remember this. Michael was an honest and hardworking rancher who got lost pursuing wrong dreams. Any of us could make the same mistakes if we are not careful to keep our priorities clear. Therefore, in memory of my husband, I am going to dedicate my life to helping other families facing difficult decisions about work and money. I am going to reopen the town school, not just to teach reading and mathematics, but also to teach values about the importance of family and the dangers of uncontrolled ambition. Now, If this story touched your heart, remember to hit like, support our work by subscribing to the channel and activating notifications for more stories like this. And above all, share this video with someone who needs to remember that family is worth more than any material wealth. Leave us in the comments. What do you think about Michael's decisions? Do you know any similar story? With the money from the sale of the truck, Sarah managed to completely repair the family house, improve the small property, and establish an educational fund for little Mike and other children in town. But more importantly, she used part of the money to create a community support program for families in economic crisis. This program offered alternatives to long-distance labor migration, intensive agriculture techniques for small properties, training in trades that could be practiced locally, microcredits for family businesses, and counseling to resolve money-related conflicts. Little Mike, despite his disability, excelled in school and became a natural leader among the young people in town. His personal story made him a credible counselor for other children facing the absence of their parents for work reasons. "I lived 5 years without my dad," he would tell his classmates, "and I know how difficult it is. But I also learned that our parents love us, even when they make decisions that hurt us. What is important is to help them find ways to be with us without having to sacrifice everything for money." Years later, when little Mike became a teacher like his mother, he always began the school year by telling his father's story. "My dad was a good rancher who made a mistake. He wanted to give us a better life, but he did not know how to do it without destroying what we already had that was good. His mistake taught us that true wealth cannot be bought in any store. It is cultivated at home, with love, patience, and time shared as a family. Every time you feel tempted to value material things more than people, remember my story. Every time your parents have to make difficult decisions about work and money, remember that you can help them find alternatives that do not require separating the family." The Anderson family's story spread throughout the region and became a rural legend that grandparents told their grandchildren. But more than just a sad story, it became a powerful educational tool that helped many families make better decisions. Dr. Williams, who had attended little Mike during the crisis, always included the story in his community talks on mental health. Uncontrolled ambition is a disease that can destroy entire families. Michael Anderson was a psychologically healthy man who became ill pursuing wrong objectives. His tragedy teaches us that we must care for not only our physical health, but also our emotional health and our life priorities. On Michael's grave, Sarah had a simple headstone placed with an epitaph that summarized the most important lesson of the entire experience. "Here rests Michael Anderson, husband and father who learned too late that true wealth cannot be bought, only loved and valued each day. May his mistakes serve as a lesson, so that others never forget that in life there are things more important than material goods: love, family, and the peace of being beside those who truly love us." And so, from the deepest tragedy arose the most valuable wisdom. The most costly mistake became the most useful lesson. A father's death was transformed into life for hundreds of families who learned to value what truly matters. The Anderson small property flourished again under the loving care of Sarah and little Mike. But the most beautiful thing was not the abundant harvests or material improvements, but the peace that could be breathed in every corner. The peace of a family that had learned, at the highest possible price, that true prosperity is not measured in dollars and cents, but in shared laughter, hugs given on time, and the tranquility of sleeping each night knowing that loved ones are safe and close to the heart. We have finished this story, and we hope you never have to live through something similar. Here we leave a message for children and parents. There are things in life more important than material possessions, and for which it is not necessary to have a great job or earn a fortune by sacrificing the family. It is enough to look at and care for those around us, to open the eyes of our hearts, and to remember that time not spent with family is time that never returns. Destiny has a strange way of collecting what we owe it. Michael sought material wealth and lost true wealth. He pursued success and found tragedy. He traded the eternal for the temporal, and the price was too high. May this story remind us all that true fortune is not in what we have, but in whom we have by our side. May we never forget that a hug is worth more than 1,000 trucks, that a smile from our children is more valuable than any bank account, and that being present is the greatest gift we can give to those we love.